You're listening to a live in-studio from 90.5 WUOL Classical Louisville, broadcasting live from our performance studio in downtown Louisville. To a packed house, and good afternoon. I'm Alan Brandt. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for our partnership program with Kentucky Opera. And today we have the cast of Kentucky Opera's upcoming production of Ariadne auf Naxos, a Richard Strauss masterpiece. You can see the production Friday, September 15th at 8 p.m. and Sunday, September 17th at 2 p.m. at the Brown Theater. And tickets are on sale now at kyopera.org. Before we hear from our artists, we would like to welcome General Director Ian Derr with us today. Welcome, Ian.
Oh, thank you, Alan.
Now, this is your second season with the company, but your first season as in terms of planning the repertoire. And what can you tell us about this season?
Well, the thing that was by design for starting with Ariadne auf Naxos is that the opera itself offers a glimpse to the shenanigans we all know and love very well. But to be able to pull the curtain back figuratively and literally in a way that introduces to opera audiences the composer, the tenor, the prima donna, the wig maker, all of these characters, and just to give you a little bit of insight as to what not only Strauss and Hofmannsthal came up with, but these are the lives of many of us in ways and shapes and forms. And it does so with a great deal of comic relief and delight, but yet then culminating in some of the most glorious music that Strauss ever wrote. So it's a perfect balance in my eyes of an opportunity to give the audience something new and exciting and also something rather expected and traditional.
Mm-hmm. And for the rest of your season?
The rest of the season is we go to Dead Man Walking, which is a Kentucky Opera premiere at the end of October, and that is another opera that much like the myth of Ariadne, has themes of redemption in it as well. So we're excited to bring that to Kentucky Opera audiences for the first time. Then in February, we moved to Rossini's classic delight, The Barber of Seville, again with a spectacular cast. So we know that will be popular. So you might want to buy your season tickets now. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Ian. We're looking forward to the whole season.
Thank you.
Ian Derr. Richard Strauss collaborated with librettist Hugo von Hofmannsthal on a total of 6 operas: Elektra in 1909, Der Rosenkavalier in 1911, Ariadne auf Naxos in 1912, Die Frau ohne Schatten 1919, Die Ägyptische Helena in 1928, and Arabella in 1933. Now, following Der Rosenkavalier, Hofmannsthal and Strauss started working on a new work based on the mythological story of Ariadne. While the first version of Ariadne auf Naxos premiered in 1912, it would take another 4 years to complete the version most performed today. The opera is in 2 parts known as the Prologue and the Opera. The Prologue sets up Monsieur Jourdain as one of the wealthiest men in Vienna. He employs an opera company and a commedia dell'arte to entertain his guests, but scheduling conflicts cause him to insist the 2 acts be performed simultaneously. The composer of the opera reluctantly moves forward with revisions, composing a new melody, and in the process falls for the star of the comedy troupe Zerbinetta. The tenor and soprano who are to sing Bacchus and Ariadne each insist for cuts in the other's part. They devise a plan to integrate the entertainment, but remain skeptical. We pick up in the prologue where the comedy troupe characters, the opera composer, and opera stars are all complaining about having to share the evening entertainment with the others. They do not yet know that they will have to integrate the 2 acts. Please welcome Elizabeth Supfen as Zerbinetta, Elizabeth Batten as the composer, Daniel Mobbs as the music master, Christine Brewer as the prima donna, and Rodel Rosell as the dance master.
Colleagues, I need my mirror, my rouge, lipstick and all. Then you knew the time,
My friend, you know I'm really far. My much older than you. I think I have learned one should accept what's offered.
A friend who thus betrays me can be my friend no longer, no longer, no longer, no longer. Have you sent for the Count as I asked? Fie! Who can those strange apparitions be? Then are we to be all mixed up with that common crowd? Do they not know who I am? And how could the Count? If their play's as dull as it seems, it should have been arranged that we started the entertainment before they're bored to death and grouchy when they've had to suffer an hour of this nonsense. How can we ever make them laugh and be merry?
I disagree. When dinner's done, they're feeling full and not inclined to think. I noticed they quickly doze off. Then, out of courtesy, they wake and start applauding, and then they all become lively and merry. What comes next? They all ask. The tale of fickle Zerbinetta and of the four fond lovers, a merry comedy with dancing, full of the most delightful songs, and there's a plot, yes, clear as the day, so easy to understand, just the thing for us. They all say they're wide awake, alert and all attention, when they're riding home in their stately fashion. They'll recall nothing else, I swear, no, nothing but the incomparable Zerbinetta and her graceful dance.
Now do not get angry with things of no account. Ariadne is the event of the evening, yes. Ariadne is the reason the connoisseurs have come here. The cream of our society have gathered here to see you perform. Ariadne is their only thought. You are Ariadne. Tomorrow, I guarantee they'll remember nothing that is except for Ariadne and its most stupendous star.
Thank you all. We will have a chance to talk with all of you throughout the program. Let's start with our prima donna, Christine Brewer, dance master, Rodel Roselle, and music master, Daniel Mobbs. We're all thrilled to welcome Christine Brewer to Louisville and to Kentucky Opera. She performed with the inaugural cabaret sidecar performance with the company in May, but this is her company premiere on the main stage. Christine, what a role to perform with the company. You're no stranger to Ariadne, having recorded this work. Before we get to Ariadne, what can you tell us about a prima donna opera star?
Well, it's the story of my life. No, it's really not. I know. I mean, although if you ask my family, they would probably say that, you know, around the house sometimes I'm a little bossy. But I okay, wasn't that funny? I don't know. I it's fun for me in the prologue, especially to play that part of that stereotypical diva, you know, like, how dare you look at me before the performance, and I'm, you know, and don't be telling me that they're going to be singing comic music while I'm on stage and all that kind of stuff. I don't do well with that. Mm-hmm. So I have to act.
So you're very familiar with Ariadne, having actually recorded the work.
Yeah. I recorded it with the Scottish Chamber Orchestra in Edinburgh. But I've sung it in London and New York and Santa Fe. I've sung it a lot.
Good.
The first time I did it, my daughter was about 8 or 9 years old, and she told me on the way home from one of the rehearsals, she said, you know, Mom, I think they're going to like Zerbinetta a lot better than you. And I know. Yeah. And I said, I know. Well, why do you think? She said, well, first of all, she has better costumes. Secondly, in this production we did, she gets to sing one of her arias on a trapeze, and she drives a little boat around stage. And third, she said, all you do is sit on that rock and complain and cry. So, you know.
Makes sense. Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Rodel, welcome. This is your Kentucky Opera debut. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in the Philippines till I was 16 when I moved to Los Angeles. And then I currently live in Chicago now with my husband and 2 cats, whom I miss very much. And but I also went to UCLA before coming to Chicago. And yeah, that's a brief thing.
So you've performed as dance master before. What's it like to return to the role?
You know, this is the 3rd time I'm singing Dance Master, but this is the first time I'm singing this in English. So actually, in 2009, I met our director, Chaz, and I've been waiting to work with Chaz for a long time now, and after like many, many years. But I'm so glad that I do get to sing this in English, and Chaz is directing, because his interpretation is just refreshing, not just for my role, but for the whole opera. So it's a totally different, experience again. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rodel. And Daniel Mobbs, so I hear you've not only returned to KO, but also returning to your hometown. Welcome back to Louisville.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since we last saw you.
That's a vague question, since I haven't been singing in Kentucky for about 18 years. So just doing what I always do, on the road, singing, performing. One of the things I have been doing with each gig is organizing benefit concerts to help local charities, one of which we are doing. The cast has graciously accepted my invitation to join me, and we're doing a free concert this Saturday. It's a ticketless event, and it's at the St. Francis of Assisi Parish on Bardstown Road, 7 p.m., and it's to benefit the Kentucky Refugee Ministries. So most of these people you're hearing today will be singing lighter fare, some musical theater, some art song, and it should be a wonderful evening.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Continuing with the story, after the major domo announces that the 2 acts will be performed simultaneously, the 2 parties begrudgingly attempt to integrate their respective works. We welcome back Rodel Russell as the dance master, Garrett Sorensen as the opera tenor, Christine Brewer as the prima donna, Daniel Mobbs as the music master, and Elizabeth Batten as the composer.
See that his cuts are quite sufficient. And I'll go and get Zerbinetta. In a flash, we'll tell her the whole of the story. You know she's a mistress of improvisation, and because she always plays herself, she's always at home in every scene she does. The others know all her tricks by heart, so there won't be any hitches. Ariadne's part must be shortened.
See to it all that is cut is taken from Bacchus. For the people
Yours remains unaltered.
Will remain. All night long she is left to shout upon the
He's
stage.
cut out 2 lungs of hers. You don't lose a quaver. Don't take me away. He's cut out half of the
This
roll of
Ariadne
Bacchus.
is a young princess who had eloped
Don't let
from
him
home with
know
a
I told
certain Theseus one day. Don't forget that she previously saved his life.
That kind of thing never works out.
Theseus soon had enough of her, so he left her alone on a deserted island one night.
Yes, you must cut it.
Hypocrite!
She's consumed by her longing and prays for death to come.
Death, they all say that, but then she takes up with another and more.
And that's how it ends, of course.
No, sir, no, that is not so. For, sir, she's one of those rare women who belong to one lover only. After that, no dark-eyed, passionate youngster, like you
I've
yourself.
guessed right again, it is the youth, forgot himself, Bacchus comes to her
As
aid.
though we did not know it, and now she has everything that she needs. She thinks he is the god of death. Before her eyes and within her soul, that's what he is, and therefore, for that reason, that's just what she hopes you'd say. And for that reason, she goes with him on his ship. She means to perish. Oh, she does perish. You pretend you can teach me women's nature. You're not like that woman. I know she really does. Ariadne is unique among the countless thousands. She is the one forever true. Idiot! Let's go. We are to join in this play. Ariadne on Naxos.
That's Rodel Rosell as dance master, Garrett Sorensen as the opera tenor, Christine Brewer as the prima donna, Daniel Mobbs as the music master, Elizabeth Sutphen as Zerbinetta, and Elizabeth Batten as the composer. Elizabeth Sutphen, we hear it's not only your first time with Kentucky Opera, it's your first time to Kentucky, so welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to.
I currently live in Frankfurt, Germany, so I'm very excited to be in the United States right now. They don't have ice in their water over there, so it's very exciting to be home. I'm loving Kentucky a lot. Thank you so much. Everybody is extremely friendly. I'm actually coming to Louisville by way of New York, so everyone's very warm here.
Good.
It's been really nice.
Well, as we just heard, it sounds like Zerbinetta suggests that Ariadne is not an unrealistic heroine. What are your thoughts about Zerbinetta and her relationship to the other characters?
I would say that she doesn't so much think she's an unrealistic heroine as she is an unrealistic woman. So as we heard in this excerpt just now, the composer says to me, well, you know, Ariadne is a rare woman. She has one love, and he left her, and she is going to sit on this island and wait for him until she dies. Rare woman. We as audience members are all the wiser because we see this trope all the time, not only in opera but in theater. Lucia falls in love with Edgardo. Things happen. He leaves her. She goes crazy, and she dies. Ophelia falls in love with Hamlet. Things happen. He ignores her, he kills her father, she goes crazy, and she dies. Happens all the time. So I love that Strauss takes Zerbinetta and uses her as a vehicle to sort of turn this trope on its head. She says to the composer of Ariadne, you know what, sitting there and waiting for a man and dying, that's just too easy. You know, what the real difficulty is when bad things happen and you get up and go to work the next day, and you take the kids to school, and you keep going. Furthermore, she decides that Zerbinetta is not going to be a casualty of some scorned relationship, but she is going to be the person who falls in love and then leaves. She falls in love with somebody, and then she moves on, and falls in love with two people and moves on. But Strauss keeps her very human. And she admits herself that she isn't immune to love and to feelings. And she does feel those things very strongly. But she's decided that each relationship isn't going to define her. And I love playing this character because I think it really resonates to me as a young woman. It shows me that I can be the hero of my own story, and I don't have to be the casualty of somebody else's. So I think it's...
Well said. Thank you, Elizabeth. And again, welcome.
Thank
We're
you.
glad to have you here in
Love being
Louisville.
here.
The work includes 2 tenors within the comedy troupe, not to mention Bacchus. As Strauss is rumored to have preferred the mezzo voice, it's fitting that the young, passionate composer is a trouser role for a mezzo-soprano. And we welcome our composer, Liz Batten, who is no stranger to Louisville at the Kentucky Opera stage. We just saw you as Katisha in The Mikado. Welcome back. It appears that the composer does a lot of defending the integrity of his work.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit how you approach this character.
Well, as my husband has reminded me, he is a little bit like me. I get a little self-involved sometimes and a little overly passionate and a little too focused on things. And it's great that he's able to meet a character like Zerbinetta who gives him a little bit more balance. So I'm able to bring some of myself into the character, and then the other characters are able to bring me a little bit back to earth.
Is it your typical trouser role?
Well, yeah, it is a typical trouser role in a lot of ways.
We've been married for 11 years, and I can testify Elizabeth needs no rehearsal wearing the pants.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, as you saw in the last scene, I just mansplain a little bit, I manspread a little bit, and it's all good. Yeah.
Well, what about Richard Strauss? What about the composer's vocal music?
Well, it's some of the most fantastic music in all of opera. It's really beautiful. It's extremely difficult for me. I'm used to singing much lower roles, so I'm having to use every bit of technique that I have to get through this role, but it's also very rewarding.
Mozart was also known for his trouser roles. Do you see that influence in Strauss?
Yes, I do. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done a trouser roll, so I'm trying to get back into the man positions, but it's fun.
If the pants fit.
Yeah.
Thank you. Elizabeth Batten. Great. We will welcome back Daniel Mobbs as the music master, Christine Brewer as the prima donna, to join you for this next excerpt. Liz, can you set the scene for us?
Yeah, we are about to perform the opera in combination with the comedy. The music master is gathering everybody together, and the composer has a new take on it all, and he's accepted that this is going to happen and is excited about it again and sings that music is a sacred art.
Go to your places, ladies and gentlemen, all! Ariadne, Zerbinetta, Scaramuccio, Harlequin! To your place at once, I beg of you!
Must I appear on the stage with common stuff like that? What are you about?
Try to be patient, am I not your friend and teacher?
You keep that awful person there off the stage, or I'll not answer for myself.
Yet, where could find a better opportunity than on the stage to really show the immense extent of the difference between the likes of her and you?
Difference? All the world, hopefully.
Then you must let them see this world in every gesture, and you will see them fall down at your feet in ecstasy.
We are friends again, for now we see clearly with eyes that are open. The depths of existence cannot be measured. My worthy friend, there is much in all this love that must go unspoken. Our poets are inspired to write exquisite verses, yes, great ones. And yet, yet, and yet, and yet, courage I feel, courage. This war is wondrous, but no fear for each courageous heart. And what then is music? Music is a holy art, calling forth the most courageous of all, like cherubim guarding a reading throne. Therefore music is the art I consider most holy.
Elizabeth Batten, also with Daniel Mobs' music director, Christina Brewer as the prima donna, and Liz as the composer. Thank you all to transition us from the prologue to the opera. Within the opera, we welcome our stage director, Chaz Rader Schieber. Chaz. Hi.
Hi.
It's good to meet you. So far, everything we've heard has been in English, but continuing on, we'll now hear the opera characters in German, while the comedy troupe characters will continue to sing in English, correct?
That is correct.
Can you speak a little on this performance decision?
I can try. Really, it wasn't a very difficult decision to make when we first started to talk about the possibilities. It's been done before with the prologue in English and the entire opera in German. It may have been done the way we're doing it before. I haven't seen it that way. I loved the idea that the disconnect between what one might call the two heroines of the story, Zerbinetta and Ariadne, who are much more alike than one might imagine they are. There's a funny little disconnect between the two of them, and it was heightened by letting Zerbinetta and the comedians sing their act, play their act in English, while the high art of this dramatic, tragic opera would be done in German. The entire prologue is in English. It's filled with really important and funny information, and given that most of the audience, I'm guessing, will be English speaking, we thought that was an easy decision to make.
Right.
There's a great line in the second act after Zerbinetta has sung and sung and sung, trying to explain her philosophy to Ariadne, who walks out in the middle of it, or Zerbinetta. And Harlequin comes in and he says, you're kind of weren't able to make her understand. And Zerbinetta responds, to paraphrase, "It seems like the princess and I speak different languages." So it seemed a perfect opportunity to make the whole opera happen that way.
Well, what about the challenges and the opportunities of staging an opera within an opera?
It's great fun. Ian spoke earlier about having the audience get a sort of a backstage view, a behind-the-scenes view of what really goes on. Of course, it's heightened, it's theatricalized, it's a bit much. Although sometimes maybe it's not that much. It's a funny, silly, grand version of what life is like backstage. But I think it's a lot of fun to do that and then sort of play a heightened version of a dramatic opera and take them down a notch or two or nine.
Well, Chaz, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
Chaz Rader Schieber. Now, the opera segment opens with the abandoned Ariadne lying helpless and surrounded by the aiding nymphs, Naiad, Echo, and Dryad. We welcome Joanna Latini as Naiade, Clara Neiman as Dryade, and Natasha Lynn Foley as Echo. Great, thank you. Thank you all. Joanna Latini.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to Kentucky Opera.
Thank you.
This is your company debut. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. A little bit about me. I'm originally from New Jersey. Was living in Houston for the last 2 years doing my master's. And so I'm really excited to be here. I'm also a big old bourbon lover. So as soon as I figured out I was coming to Kentucky, I knew what I had to do. So it's really great to be here
Good.
to sing this awesome music.
Excellent. Take your time with the bourbon, by the
Yes,
way.
of course.
We have a lot. Clara Neiman, great to have you back
Thanks
for
so much.
another year. How have you been doing? And what else will you be engaged with this season?
That is so kind of you to ask. I'm doing well. It's wonderful to be back for a second season at Kentucky Opera. As any opera singer will tell you, we live our lives on the road and often are only in one place for a couple of weeks at a time. So it's wonderful to be able to come back to a city that feels a little bit like a homecoming. We have some wonderful, wonderful staff at the opera, wonderful patrons, wonderful singers that are coming back. And like Joanna, I love bourbon. I love to go to those distilleries. If anybody would like to sponsor my bourbon tour across the state, feel free. I'll give you my number. But it's wonderful to be back and to have a role in all 3 productions this season, as well as a concert with the Lexington Philharmonic Thanksgiving weekend for Christmas time.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And Natasha Lynn Foley, it's great to have you back.
Great to be
What
back.
What have you been up to?
Oh gosh. This past year, I was lucky to be an apprentice with Sarasota Opera, so I didn't see a single flake of snow all year. So that was pretty nice. And now, since I've been back, I've been, besides working on Ariadne, I've been working with some fellow University of Louisville graduates on a new art song cycle that we will be recording an EP called Baby Book this October, and planning to do some recitals.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having us.
That's Joanna Latini, Clara Neiman, and Natasha Lynn Foley. Now, as Ariadne wakes, the comedy characters provide commentary on her situation and even try to offer consolation. But Ariadne, in her despair from being abandoned by her love, Theseus, is beyond comfort. We welcome the comedy comrades with this lighthearted ensemble, which at times feels folk-like or madrigal in nature. We welcome Elizabeth Sutphen as Zerbinetta, Isaac Frischman as Brigella, Ryan Connolly as Scaramuccio, Connor McDonald as Harlequin, Evan Boyer as Truffaldino.
This lady is too much inclined to yield to grief of every kind. Whatever sorrows may befall, time passes by and he sees them all. We all show compassion for love and sorrow, but useless whining will befall. We all show compassion for love and sorrow, for love and sorrow, for love and sorrow, but useless whining for tomorrow. Longing to have this lovely lady's coming with her merry friends.
We'll make our dancing and singing cheerful to make you forget to be sad or fearful.
What is our ride by the sun's warm caresses? A playful breeze drives the flowing sad or fearful. Make you forget to be sad or fearful.
Make our dancing and singing cheerful to make you forget to be sad or fearful.
What is our ride by the sun's warm caresses? For praise rise the breeze, tries the flowing tears.
As they are swinging, dancing, and singing, I'm feeling seductive, filled with desire for one man or the other. I'm already on fire.
We'll make our dancing and singing cheerful.
We'll make our dancing and singing cheerful.
What is our ride by the
sun's warm caress, dancing and singing.
For 'tis our dream the sun's warm caress
We'll make our dancing and singing cheerful.
flowing 'tis as they are swinging, dancing and singing, and a feeling seductive and I'm burning.
This lady is too much inclined to yield to dream of every time. Cheerful to make you forget instead of fearful. For tears are dried by the sun's warm caress. A playful breeze dries the flowing tears.
Thank you all. We welcome back Connor and Ryan, who were with Kentucky Opera last season. Connor, how's it to be back here?
It's great to be back. It's like Clara said, we're on the road all the time, so coming back to Louisville feels like a homecoming. It's great to be back.
It's a wonderful ensemble that you just sang. That's beautifully done. And it's good that we have good weather for you while you're here.
Yeah, beautiful.
Ryan, well, Connor, first, what have you been up to recently?
Well, I spent the summer in upstate New York at the Glimmerglass Festival, singing in 2 productions there, and that was fantastic. And now back in Louisville for a bit, and the song continues after that. Who knows where we'll go?
Ryan, welcome back. What have you been doing?
I spent the summer with the Des Moines Metro Opera out in Iowa. I did a riveting production of Billy Budd, which was a fantastic production with Christine McIntyre, who was here last year doing Madame Butterfly. And I also did the youngest emperor to have ever lived in Turandot, which was quite wonderful. And I'm only here for this show this season. I'm sad to report, but I'll be doing a lot of traveling around later this season.
Good. Well, welcome back. We welcome Isaac Frischman and Evan Boyer, both making their company debuts. Isaac, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. I spent the last 5 years up in Michigan at Michigan State doing my grad work, and just been traveling around the country singing wherever I can get work.
Well, as long as you can get it, that's good. Evan, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so this is a literal homecoming for me. I grew up in Louisville, and actually Kentucky Opera was where I saw my first opera years ago. And in fact, I like to remind Ian that years and years ago, also I was an intern in the summer for Kentucky Opera back in high school.
Nice. So where have you been recently?
So I live in Chicago, where I sang with Lyric Opera Chicago for several seasons, where I met Ian, in fact. And since then, I've been traveling the country and the world, singing opera.
Well, I was glad to have you here, and here at WOL.
Great to be back.
Thank you. Well, we can't have Ariadne auf Naxos without hearing Ariadne. We welcome back our heroine, Christine Brewer, and Garrett Sorensen as our god of wine, Bacchus. Christine, can you share your wisdom on the character Strauss's music and how you approach this character with different directors, cast members, and concepts?
It's as I said earlier, it's fun for me to get to be a little funny in the prologue, because most of the roles I sing aren't real, full of laughs. Not a lot of chuckles and, Tristan and Isolde, Alceste, So that part of it is really fun for me, to get a chance to be a little funny, a little diva-ish, if that's a word. And then just to sing this glorious music in the opera part, I always feel like it's a gift for me to get to sing it, because it's so beautiful and so evocative. And so it's great to get to sing it in different kinds of productions with different tenors. This is the first time that Garrett and I have got to sing together, and we met the other day and rehearsed, and oh my gosh, it was just glorious, and really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you.
And then I sang.
Yeah.
I was talking about you.
Well, let's make the transition. Garrett Sorensen as the god Bacchus. Garrett, great to have you back. Another local to Louisville. You've recently enjoyed great success with the Revolution of Steve Jobs as the character of Wozniak.
Yeah,
Steve Wozniak, yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
How do you switch gears so quickly, turn into a mythological god?
Well, luckily there's an app for that.
Good answer, yeah.
All right.
All night I worked on that.
He'll
All
be here
night.
all week.
Yeah. Actually, it's been really easy. This is the second time I've done Ariadne. The first time was I was one of the acrobats at the Met, and I sort of completely forgot about this show because that was like 12 years ago. And when I got here, the prologue, all of these great singing actors had been working on it for days and days, and I showed up and it was like this amazing, beautiful finished product. Everybody was funny, everybody was natural, everything was great. So it's been really easy to just kind of come in and bring the average down a little bit.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we'll leave you with a glorious duet between these two. Christine, would you like to set the scene for us?
I've been on this rock, pining, on this island for, she doesn't even know how long. She says several times, I don't know how many days I've been here, I've lost my mind. And then she's waiting for the god of death. But here he shows up and she thinks, oh, this must be it. I'm going away. I'm going to a better place. He, of course, is clueless about this and kind of goes along with it. Like when she says, you're a god, you came on a ship. Well, yeah, I am. I certainly am. I came on a ship. I guess I'm a god. But then they become transformed. And it's really, you'll hear at the very end of the opera that Strauss's sort of death and transfiguration music. And so she's now there she's becoming transformed. And she says, have you taken away everything, the sun and the stars? And what about me? What's happened to me? Who am I now? And that's sort of where we are in this part of the duet.
Entfern sich alles von mir, die Sonne, die Sterne, ich mir selber sind meine Schmerzen nur, auf immer genommen. Ach, bleibt nicht von Ariadne, soll sein
Ich sage dir, nun hebt sich erst das Leben an für dich und mich.
Die Welt auf meine Brust, hast du sie und geblasen,
steigt meiner Schmerzen erster Lohn,
nassen und so
im Dein und seinem Herz.
Gott sei du, verwundert du, blick nicht aus den Schatten deines Mantels, dem Mutteraugen auf mich ist so dein Schattenland, so gesegnet, so unbedürftig der irdischen Welt.
Du bist unbedürftig nur meiner Zauberin.
Man, we cut it just at a part.
Gotta come see the show.
You see how it ends.
Thank you. Christine Brewer's Ariadne, Garrett Sorensen is Bacchus, and we're very fortunate to have Joseph Mekovich be able to come. Just in time. You came directly from the orchestral rehearsal.
Yes.
How'd that go?
Very well. We had 3 orchestra reads, and this morning was the 3rd one.
Now, there's really nothing like orchestral Strauss. It's exquisite. I don't know how to describe it. Can you?
Well, to me, it's about the instrumentation, and it's about the harmonic language. As you heard in this duet, the harmonies are so lush, and they move so very quickly. Their harmonic progressions do. But on top of that, the way that he orchestrates these colors, you hear it wonderfully from that Sheldon's playing the piano. But the lines that he gives to the instruments really makes the texture transformative and transparent, and that's what's so great about Strauss. Everyone thinks Strauss is this big, huge, organic sound, which it is, but there's so many different layers, and it's trying to find and allow the orchestra to play transparently, so you hear all the spokes in the wheel, so you hear all the different noodles that the instruments are doing. That's what makes Strauss so very, very special.
Well, I could hear a bit of the 4 last songs in the sound
yes,
of
absolutely.
this, and it's sublime. That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. You hear a bit of Rosenkavalier, you hear Death and Transfiguration, you hear all of this stuff that's already in his head. Not to mention a lot of these tunes he had composed earlier. I don't know if you guys talked about the first sort of genesis of this was incidental music to Molière's play The Bourgeois Gentilhomme, and then he did a little suite for a small chamber group and piano based on most of these tunes that are in Ariadne auf Naxos.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was very glad that you were able to come up here and say this.
Yeah.
Joseph, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
And you. Joseph Bekovich. Thank you, Maestro. And thank you for joining us. You can see Ariadne auf Naxos with Kentucky Opera on Friday, September 15th, 8 p.m., and Sunday, September 17th at 2 p.m. at the Brown Theater. Tickets are going now. Find yours at kyopera.org. Now, WOL 90.5 and Louisville Public Media have a practically new building here with our renovation being almost complete, and we're going to have a big celebration on September 17th. Visit WOL.org and learn more about our open house and block party. I'd like to thank City Cafe for lunches. Eric Matthews was our audio engineer, Coach and Toshiro providing house sound, Robert Johnson in the WOL studio, and our fabulous artist. Incredible stuff. Thank you all. I'm Alan Brandt. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to a live in-studio from 90.5 WUOL Classical Louisville.
You're watching Metro TV, a public service of Louisville Metro government.